Chapter 1. The Night Visitor. The city was a slumbering beast, its rhythmic heart slowed to a muffled thrum. A blanket of inky blackness stretched overhead, punctuated only by the distant, indifferent glow of street lamps. In this nocturnal tableau, a solitary figure moved with the silent precision of a phantom. Clad in shadows, the figure was a mere silhouette against the night's canvas. Their footsteps made no sound on the damp pavement, as if the very ground yielded to their passage. A keen sense of awareness seemed to permeate their being, their eyes, twin beacons in the darkness, scanning the deserted streets with an intensity that belied the tranquility of the hour. A cold wind swept through the city, carrying with it the distant wail of a siren, a discordant note in the nocturnal symphony. The figure paused, their form rigid for a moment, before continuing their silent progress. The city was a labyrinth, its winding streets a complex puzzle, yet the figure navigated with an uncanny familiarity. Their destination appeared to be a building nestled in a shadowy corner, its architecture a stark contrast to the ornate facades of its neighbors. It was a fortress of concrete and steel, a monolithic presence in the sleeping city. The figure halted at its entrance, their hand hovering over the cold metal of the door handle. A moment passed, a tense equilibrium between anticipation and caution. Then, with a swift, decisive motion, the door yielded. The interior was cloaked in darkness, a void that seemed to swallow the figure whole. But the figure was prepared, a small, discreet light illuminating their path. The building was a maze of corridors, each turn revealing a new expanse of darkness. The air was still, heavy with the scent of dust and decay. With every step, the sense of isolation deepened. The only sound was the echo of their own footsteps, a rhythmic counterpoint to the silence. As they ventured deeper into the building, the air grew colder, a chilling draft that seemed to seep from unseen depths. The figure's breath formed a visible mist in the frigid air, a stark contrast to the invisible world around them. They moved with increasing caution, their senses on high alert. A shadow flickered in the periphery of their vision, a fleeting apparition that vanished as quickly as it appeared. The figure pressed on, their determination unwavering. There was a purpose to this nocturnal intrusion, a reason for braving the city's slumbering heart. With each passing moment, the anticipation grew, a tangible force driving them forward. Chapter 2. The Enigma. A sterile expanse of white dominated the room, a stark contrast to the labyrinthine darkness of the previous night. A single desk occupied the center of the space, its polished surface reflecting the morning sunlight that filtered through sheer curtains. It was a minimalist environment, devoid of personal touches, a space designed for function, not comfort. At the desk sat a person, their form hunched over, absorbed in contemplation. Their hands, delicate yet strong, rested on a smooth, wooden box. It was an unassuming object, its exterior plain and unremarkable. Yet, to the person holding it, it held the weight of the world. With a gentle motion, the box was lifted, its lid removed to reveal a small, velvet-lined compartment. Nestled within was a single photograph, a relic of a bygone era. The image depicted a young woman, her smile radiant, her eyes filled with a life yet to be lived. A pang of sorrow etched itself onto the face of the person holding the photograph. Memories surfaced, fragments of a shared life, now reduced to sepia-toned images and fading echoes. The woman in the photograph was more than just an image. She was a symbol of hope, love, and loss. A silent vow was made, a promise to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The person's gaze returned to the desk, their attention drawn to a stack of papers. They were covered in intricate codes, cryptic symbols, and indecipherable language. It was a puzzle, a complex equation with a missing variable. The person began to work, their mind a whirlwind of logic and deduction. Hours passed as they delved deeper into the cryptic world of numbers and letters. The room fell silent, the only sound the soft rustle of paper and the occasional click of a pen. The person was on a mission, a quest for answers, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice. The enigma before them was a challenge, but it was a challenge they were determined to conquer. Chapter 3: The City's Heart. A concrete jungle pulsated with life. Towering structures pierced the sky, their glass facades reflecting the city's relentless energy. A ceaseless tide of humanity ebbed and flowed through the streets, a collective heartbeat of ambition and desire. Amidst this chaos, a solitary figure moved with purpose. Clad in an understated elegance, the figure blended seamlessly into the urban tapestry. Their gaze was sharp, scanning the crowd with an almost predatory intensity. Every face was a potential clue, every interaction a potential lead. The city was a labyrinth of secrets, and this figure was determined to uncover its hidden depths. The destination was a monolithic building, a symbol of power and influence. It stood as a sentinel over the city, a fortress of commerce and ambition. The figure entered the building, their presence a mere ripple in the ocean of humanity within. Inside, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the bustling exterior. Polished marble floors, sleek glass walls, and the muted hum of technology created an environment of sterile efficiency. The figure moved through this sterile world with a sense of detachment, their focus unwavering. Elevators ascended and descended, carrying a constant stream of people to and from the upper floors. The figure stepped into one, their reflection a fleeting image in the mirrored walls. As the elevator climbed higher, the city transformed into a miniature landscape, a breathtaking panorama of human achievement. The destination floor arrived with a soft ding. The figure stepped out into a world of opulence and exclusivity. Plush carpets, muffled footsteps, and soft lighting created an atmosphere of intimacy. The air was filled with the subtle scent of wealth and power. The figure moved confidently through this exclusive realm, their presence unnoticed by the occupants. They navigated a maze of private offices, each a world unto itself. The hum of conversation, the click of keyboards, and the occasional laughter filled the space. Yet, amidst this cacophony of activity, the figure remained focused, their mind a fortress of silence. The ultimate destination was a corner office, a sanctuary of glass and steel. Beyond the glass walls, the city stretched out in a breathtaking expanse. The figure paused, their gaze lost in the panoramic view, but their mind was elsewhere, focused on the task at hand. With a determined step, the figure knocked on the door. Chapter 4: The Watchful House. Night descended, casting the world in a shroud of inky blackness. The city, once a vibrant tapestry of lights, was now a subdued canvas painted with shadows. In a secluded neighborhood, far removed from the city's pulsating heart, stood a house. It was a relic of a bygone era, its architecture a stark contrast to the modern structures that surrounded it. The house was shrouded in an aura of mystery. Its facade, a patchwork of shadows and moonlight, seemed to conceal secrets within its weathered walls. Tall, imposing trees cast eerie shadows, creating an atmosphere of foreboding. A lone figure stood across the street, their silhouette a stark contrast against the house's darkened facade. The watcher was patient, their gaze fixed on the house. Every movement, every flicker of light was observed with meticulous attention. The night was still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant hoot of an owl. The figure's breath formed a visible mist in the cold night air, a testament to their prolonged vigil. The house remained silent, its windows dark and impenetrable. Yet, The watcher sensed a presence, an unseen force lurking within. It was a feeling, a gut instinct honed over years of experience. They shifted their position, their eyes scanning the surroundings with renewed intensity. Time seemed to stretch infinitely as the watcher maintained their vigil. The moon climbed higher in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the house. A sense of isolation crept in, the watcher a solitary sentinel in a world that seemed to have forgotten them. Suddenly, a light flickered on in an upper window. The watcher's heart quickened. It was a brief moment of illumination, then darkness once more. But in that fleeting instant, something had been seen, a glimpse into the house's hidden life. The watcher's mind raced. Was it a coincidence? Or was this a sign that they were being watched? The figure retreated into the shadows, their presence erased from the night. The house remained silent, its secret safely guarded. But the watcher knew they would return, their determination fueled by the enigma that lay within those weathered walls. Chapter 5. The Silent Deal. A dim, smoky atmosphere enveloped the room, its walls adorned with shadows that danced to the flickering light of a single candle. The air was thick with tension, a palpable energy that crackled between the occupants. A heavy wooden table dominated the center of the room, its surface scarred by the passage of time. Around the table, a group of figures were gathered, their faces obscured by the dim light. Each was a shadow, a silhouette against the backdrop of uncertainty. Their body language spoke volumes, a mix of caution, greed, and desperation. A briefcase, its sleek leather surface gleaming faintly, rested at the center of the table. The room was a microcosm of the underworld, a place where deals were made and broken, where trust was a scarce commodity. The briefcase held the key to a world of wealth and power, a prize worth risking everything for. Yet, there was a sense of foreboding, a whisper of danger that hung in the air. One by one, the figures reached for the briefcase, their hands hovering over the clasp. Each touch was a calculated risk, a gamble with high stakes. The candlelight flickered, casting elongated shadows that seemed to mock their aspirations. Finally, a hand descended, the clasp clicked open. The briefcase was lifted, its contents revealed in the dim light. A bundle of banknotes, crisp and new, was nestled among a collection of documents. A murmur of satisfaction rippled through the group. The exchange began, a silent ballet of hands and objects. The briefcase changed hands, its weight a symbol of power and control. As quickly as it had begun, the transaction was complete. The briefcase was gone, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. But the night was young, and the shadows held secrets yet to be revealed. As the figures began to disperse, the room seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. Yet, beneath the veneer of satisfaction, a current of unease flowed. The deal was done, but the consequences were yet to unfold. The candle flickered and died, leaving the room in complete darkness. The figures melted into the shadows, disappearing without a trace. The room was once again empty, its silence broken only by the ticking of an unseen clock. Chapter 6. The Vanishing Point. A life, once vibrant and full of promise, had vanished without a trace. A ripple of fear spread through the community as news of the disappearance made its way through the grapevine. The missing person was a familiar face, a pillar of the community, and their absence cast a long shadow of uncertainty. The police department was inundated with calls and inquiries. Detectives, their minds racing, pieced together the fragments of the missing person's life. A seemingly ordinary existence unraveled layer by layer, revealing a complex tapestry of relationships and secrets. The missing person's home was a sterile environment, devoid of personal touches. It was a house, not a home, a place where echoes of a life lived seemed to linger in the empty rooms. Evidence was scarce, a frustrating puzzle with missing pieces. The search widened, casting a net over the city. Posters with the missing person's image appeared on every corner, a silent plea for information. The media descended on the neighborhood, their cameras capturing every movement, every tearful plea from family and friends. Days turned into weeks, and hope began to dwindle. The initial shock gave way to a gnawing despair. The missing person's absence was a gaping hole in the fabric of the community. Every passing day deepened the mystery, fueling speculation and fear. Behind the scenes, the police worked tirelessly. Hours were spent poring over phone records, financial statements, and social media profiles. Every lead was pursued, no matter how improbable. But the elusive truth remained just beyond reach. The case became a haunting presence, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. The city, once vibrant and full of promise, now carried the weight of a missing soul. And as days turned into weeks, the question lingered. Where had the missing person gone, and would they ever be found? Chapter 7. The Forgotten Clue. In the heart of the city, a labyrinth of archives housed the collective memory of time. Rows upon rows of shelves stretched into the distance, each holding the potential to unlock forgotten secrets. A lone figure moved through this silent world, their footsteps echoing softly on the worn linoleum floor. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and dust, a tangible presence in the dimly lit room. The figure's eyes scanned the shelves, their gaze focused and determined. They were on a quest, a search for a needle in a haystack, a forgotten clue that could illuminate the darkness surrounding a baffling case. Hours turned into days as the figure delved deeper into the archive's depths. Their hands traced the spines of countless books, their fingers brushing against the covers of forgotten newspapers. Each document was a potential piece of the puzzle, a fragment of a story waiting to be discovered. Then, a breakthrough. A worn, leather-bound volume caught the figure's attention. Its title, faded and almost illegible, hinted at a connection to the missing person. With trembling hands, the figure opened the book, their heart pounding with anticipation. Inside, a world of words unfolded. The pages were filled with meticulous handwriting, a record of a life lived in shadows. Names, dates, and places emerged, forming a cryptic narrative. A hidden code, perhaps, or a simple diary of a troubled soul. The figure was consumed by the text, their mind racing as they deciphered the cryptic messages. Every word was a clue, a piece of evidence leading closer to the truth. Hours passed as the figure immersed themselves in the world of the book, their body a mere vessel for a mind on fire. With each passing page, a clearer picture emerged, a life marked by secrets, by a fear that had consumed its subject. The missing person was not merely a victim of circumstance but a pawn in a larger game. A game with stakes far higher than anyone could have imagined. The figure closed the book, their mind reeling. They had found it, the forgotten clue, the key to unlocking the mystery. But with this newfound knowledge came a sense of unease, a premonition of danger. The truth was closer than ever, but so were the shadows that had created it. Chapter 8. The Pursuit. Armed with newfound knowledge, a sense of urgency propelled the figure into action. The city, once a labyrinth, now seemed a familiar terrain, each street a potential path to the truth. The pursuit was on, a relentless chase against an unseen adversary. The figure moved with a purpose, their every action calculated. The city's rhythm was a backdrop to their mission, the constant hum of traffic a lullaby to their focused mind. Shadows were their allies, the night their cloak of invisibility. The pursuit led them to a desolate industrial area, a stark contrast to the city's vibrant core. Abandoned warehouses and rusted machinery painted a bleak picture. Yet, it was here that the figure sensed a proximity to their target. The air was heavy with anticipation, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of metal or the distant howl of a stray dog. The figure moved cautiously, their senses heightened. Every shadow was a potential threat, every sound a warning. A flicker of light caught their attention. In the distance, a warehouse stood illuminated, its windows casting an eerie glow onto the surrounding darkness. It was a beacon, a siren song drawing the figure closer. With each step, the tension grew. The heart pounded in their ears, a relentless drumbeat of adrenaline. The warehouse loomed larger, its imposing structure a fortress of unknown dangers. The figure circled the building, searching for a point of entry. A broken window offered a chance. With a surge of adrenaline, the figure squeezed through the narrow opening. The interior was dark, the air thick with the scent of decay. A single beam of moonlight pierced the darkness, illuminating a small portion of the vast space. Cautiously, the figure moved forward, their eyes adjusting to the gloom. Shadows danced on the walls, creating a haunting atmosphere. A sound, a faint whisper, echoed through the silence. The pursuit had reached a critical juncture. The hunter was about to become the hunted. Chapter 9. The Hidden Chamber. The warehouse was a labyrinth of shadows, a maze of hidden corners and forgotten spaces. The figure moved through this desolate world with a growing sense of unease. The air was thick with the scent of decay, a constant reminder of the building's neglect. A faint sound, a whisper carried on the wind, drew the figure deeper into the labyrinth. It was a sound of machinery, a rhythmic pulse that echoed through the emptiness. With renewed determination, the figure pressed on, their senses on high alert. A hidden door, camouflaged by shadows, revealed itself. It was a heavy, metal door, its surface scarred by time. With a surge of adrenaline, the figure pushed against it, the metal groaning in protest. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, descending staircase. The staircase led to a subterranean world, a hidden chamber bathed in a dim, artificial light. The air was cold and damp, the atmosphere heavy with the scent of chemicals. The chamber was a stark contrast to the decaying warehouse above, a sterile environment filled with an array of high-tech equipment. At the center of the chamber stood a large, glass-enclosed tank, its contents obscured by a swirling liquid. Wires and tubes snaked their way around the tank, connecting it to a complex network of machinery. It was a scene from a science fiction novel, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. The figure approached the tank cautiously, their mind racing. What secrets were hidden within? What dark experiments had been conducted in this hidden laboratory? The answers were tantalizingly close, yet shrouded in mystery. A series of monitors lined the walls of the chamber, displaying a complex array of data. Numbers and graphs flickered, a silent symphony of information. The figure moved from one monitor to another, their eyes scanning the screens with growing fascination. A breakthrough came in the form of a hidden file, accessed through a complex series of codes. The file contained images, videos, and text, a digital dossier of a sinister project. The figure was on the brink of uncovering a conspiracy of epic proportions, a plot that reached far beyond the confines of the hidden chamber. The weight of the discovery was immense. The figure stood in silence, their mind grappling with the implications of what they had found. The world they had known was shattered, replaced by a chilling reality. The pursuit had led to a revelation, but it was a revelation that came at a terrible cost. Chapter 10. The Game of Shadows. The world had shifted, its familiar contours blurred by the revelation of a sinister truth. The figure was no longer a mere observer, but a central player in a dangerous game. The pursuit had transformed into a precarious dance, a high-stakes gamble with life as the ultimate currency. The hidden chamber became a sanctuary, a place of refuge and planning. Days turned into nights as the figure delved deeper into the stolen data, piecing together the fragments of a complex puzzle. A network of power, corruption, and control emerged, a web of influence that spanned continents. The figure was a ghost in the digital world, moving through cyberspace with the silent efficiency of a phantom. They erased their digital footprint, leaving no trace of their intrusion into the hidden chamber. The stakes were too high to risk detection. Paranoia became a constant companion. Every shadow held a potential threat, every sound a warning. The figure lived in a state of heightened awareness, their mind always racing, anticipating the next move of their unseen adversaries. The city, once a familiar backdrop, transformed into a hostile environment. The streets were filled with potential dangers, every face a mask hiding a sinister purpose. The figure moved with caution, their every action calculated, their movements unpredictable. Sleep was a luxury denied. Rest was a fleeting moment stolen between bursts of intense activity. The weight of the world rested on their shoulders, a burden that threatened to crush them. Yet, the figure persevered, driven by a sense of duty, a compulsion to expose the truth. The line between hunter and hunted blurred. The figure was being watched, their movements monitored by unseen eyes. Every step was a calculated risk, a gamble with life as the prize. The game of shadows had begun, a deadly dance of deception and survival. The figure knew that they were alone in this battle, an isolated figure in a world consumed by darkness. But they also knew that they were not powerless. Armed with knowledge and determination, they would fight back, one shadow against an army. Chapter 11. The Showdown. The inevitable confrontation loomed like a storm on the horizon. The figure had gathered their forces, their knowledge transformed into a weapon. The enemy, sensing their vulnerability, had begun to close in. The stage was set for a final act, a clash of wills and ideologies. A deserted warehouse, a place of shadows and secrets, became the battleground. It was a fitting location for a showdown between light and darkness. The figure arrived early, their presence a mere whisper in the vast, empty space. Time was a luxury they could not afford, every moment precious in the countdown to the confrontation. The enemy arrived with a force that belied their numbers. They were shadows, their faces hidden behind masks, their intentions clear. The air crackled with tension, the silence broken only by the soft thud of footsteps and the occasional scrape of metal. The showdown began as a ballet of movement, a deadly dance of evasion and attack. The figure fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, their mind sharp, their body honed to perfection. The enemies were relentless, their numbers a crushing advantage. Yet, the figure was not alone. Their knowledge was their weapon, a digital arsenal unleashed against their adversaries. The warehouse became a battlefield of technology, a clash of codes and countermeasures. The figure fought with a cold, calculated precision, their mind a fortress of logic. The tide of battle turned. The figure, outnumbered and outmatched, found a weakness in their enemy's defenses. With a surge of adrenaline, they exploited the vulnerability, turning the tables in a matter of seconds. The enemy, caught off guard, was thrown into chaos. The final confrontation was a duel between two minds, a battle of wills. The figures stood face to face with their adversary, their eyes locked in a silent confrontation. The outcome would determine the fate of countless lives. With a final, decisive move, the figure struck. The enemy, defeated, collapsed to the ground. The warehouse fell silent, the only sound the echo of their own ragged breathing. Victory was bittersweet, a hollow triumph in the face of a world consumed by darkness. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The road ahead was fraught with danger, the shadows still lurking in the corners. The figure stood alone, a solitary beacon in the darkness, their journey far from its end. Chapter 12. The Sacrifice. Victory was a fragile thing, a fleeting moment in a relentless war. The figure had emerged from the shadows, a victor in a battle, but the scars of the conflict ran deep. Physical wounds would heal, but the psychological damage was a more insidious foe. The world outside the warehouse had changed. The city, once a familiar landscape, was now a place of shadows and whispers. The figure moved through it like a ghost, their presence a fleeting apparition. Every glance, every casual conversation held a potential threat. Paranoia had taken root, a constant companion that eroded the edges of sanity. The figure was a prisoner of their own mind, trapped in a labyrinth of fear and uncertainty. The weight of the world, once a shared burden, was now solely theirs to bear. A decision was made, a sacrifice born of necessity. The figure knew that to truly defeat the enemy, they had to disappear, to become a phantom in the annals of history. It was a painful choice, a surrender of identity, but it was the only way to ensure the safety of others. The process of vanishing began with meticulous planning. A new identity was crafted, a carefully constructed facade that would shield the truth. Assets were liquidated, possessions abandoned, a life erased. The figure became a ghost, haunting the margins of existence. The farewell to the past was a bittersweet process. Memories were cherished, moments of joy and sorrow preserved in the depths of the mind. It was a painful detachment, a severing of ties that ran deep. Yet, it was a necessary sacrifice, a price to be paid for the greater good. With a heavy heart, the figure stepped into the unknown. The world was a vast ocean, and they were a solitary vessel, adrift and alone. There was fear, of course, a primal instinct to survive. But there was also a sense of liberation, a freedom born of necessity. The figure vanished, leaving behind a trail of breadcrumbs, a puzzle for future generations to solve. It was a gamble, a desperate hope that the truth would one day be revealed. But for now, the figure was content to fade into obscurity, a silent guardian watching over a world they could no longer protect. The sacrifice was complete. A life had ended, a new one begun. The figure was no longer a person, but an idea, a symbol of hope in the face of darkness. And as they disappeared into the horizon, a new chapter began, a story yet to be written. Chapter 13. The New Day. A new dawn broke on a world unaware of the shadows that had retreated into the night. The sun, a golden orb, ascended the sky, casting its warm embrace upon the earth. Cities awakened, their inhabitants emerging from the cocoon of slumber, ready to embrace a new day. In a quiet corner of the world, a new life was taking shape. A solitary figure, reborn from the ashes of the past, moved through the world with a cautious optimism. The old identity was a ghost, a memory haunting the edges of consciousness. Now, there was only the present, a blank canvas waiting to be painted. The world was a foreign land, filled with unfamiliar faces and strange customs. The figure moved through it with a sense of detachment, an observer in their own life. Each day was a small victory, a step forward on a path unknown. There was loneliness, a constant companion in this new existence. The absence of human connection was a void, a reminder of the life left behind. Yet, there was also a sense of peace, a quiet solitude that allowed for introspection and growth. Slowly, tentatively, the figure began to reach out. Small connections were formed, fragile bonds that offered glimpses of a world beyond isolation. There was kindness, empathy, and a shared humanity that offered solace. The past was a ghost, but it was not forgotten. It was a constant companion, a source of both strength and pain. The figure carried the weight of memory, but it was a burden willingly borne. The past was a chapter closed, but its lessons were not lost. With each passing day, the figure grew stronger, their resilience a testament to the human spirit. The world was still a mystery, but it was a mystery to be explored with curiosity and hope. The future was uncertain, but it was filled with endless possibilities. A new identity was taking shape, a person emerging from the shadows of the past. It was a slow, painstaking process, but it was a process filled with purpose. The figure was no longer a victim of circumstance, but a creator of their own destiny. As the sun set on another day, the figure looked to the horizon, a canvas painted with hues of orange and pink. The future was a mystery, but it was a mystery to be embraced. With a deep breath, they stepped into the night, ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring. Chapter 14. Reckoning. The tranquility of the new life was an illusion, a fragile veneer masking the undercurrent of a relentless pursuit. The past, once buried, began to stir, its spectral hand reaching out from the shadows. A whisper, a shadow, a fleeting glimpse. These were the breadcrumbs leading back to the heart of darkness. The figure was forced to confront the ghost they had tried to exorcise. The new identity, once a sanctuary, became a prison, a gilded cage confining their spirit. The past, like a relentless predator, circled closer, its shadow looming larger with each passing day. A decision, born of necessity, began to take shape. The reckoning was coming, a confrontation with the forces of darkness that had shaped their destiny. It was a perilous path, a journey into the heart of the storm. Fear was a constant companion, a cold hand gripping the soul. The unknown was a terrifying abyss, filled with potential dangers. Yet, there was also a surge of adrenaline, a thrill of anticipation. The hunter had become the hunted, and the chase was on. Preparation was meticulous. Every detail was considered, every contingency planned. The figure was a ghost once more, moving through the world with the silent efficiency of a phantom. The past was their guide, a roadmap to a confrontation that would define their future. The journey led back to the heart of darkness, to the places where shadows converged. The city, once a symbol of hope, now held a sinister allure. The figure moved through it with a sense of detachment, their mind focused on the task at hand. The confrontation was inevitable. It was a clash of wills, a battle between light and darkness. The figure faced their adversaries with a courage born of desperation. The past was a heavy burden, but it was also a source of strength. The battle was fierce, a whirlwind of violence and chaos. The figure fought with a ferocity born of survival, their mind a fortress of steel. The enemy was relentless, their determination fueled by a desire for retribution. In the end, victory was a fragile thing, a Pyrrhic triumph. The enemy was defeated, but at a terrible cost. The world was forever changed, the scars of the battle etched into the landscape of the soul. The figure stood alone, a solitary victor in a war that had consumed everything. The reckoning was over, but the aftermath was yet to come. The world was a different place, and the figure was a changed person. The journey was far from over, the path ahead shrouded in uncertainty. But with each step, the figure moved forward, their head held high, ready to face whatever the future held. Chapter 15. Horizon's Edge. The world was a different place, a landscape reshaped by the storm of conflict. The figure stood at the precipice, a solitary figure against the vast expanse of the unknown. The past was a ghost, haunting the edges of consciousness, but it was a ghost losing its grip. The future was a blank canvas, a world of infinite possibilities. Fear was replaced by a sense of anticipation, a thrill of the unknown. The figure was no longer a survivor, but a pioneer, forging a path through uncharted territory. Isolation was a constant companion, but it was a solitude filled with purpose. The figure was a solitary tree, standing strong against the wind, their roots dug deep into the earth, drawing sustenance from the memories of the past. The journey was a quest for meaning, a search for a place to belong. The world was filled with strangers, but there was a sense of connection, a shared humanity that bridged the gaps. The figure was a traveler, seeking not a destination, but the journey itself. With each passing day, the figure grew stronger, their spirit unbroken by the storms of the past. The world was a mirror, reflecting their inner strength. The future was a canvas on which to paint a masterpiece of hope. The horizon was a constant reminder of the unknown, a symbol of both fear and possibility. The figures stood at the edge, looking out at the vast expanse, their heart filled with a sense of wonder. The past was a chapter closed, but the story was far from over. The future was a blank page, waiting to be filled with the colors of life. The figure took a deep breath, their eyes fixed on the horizon. With a sense of purpose, they stepped forward, embracing the unknown. The journey had just begun,